Well, good morning. Oh, that was pretty good. Thank you. My name is Brad, and I get the honor of occasionally stepping up on stage and sharing with you guys. I got to warn you a little bit, though, because of that thing that just happened, we got to move fast, so y'all listen quick, okay? Whew, here we go. All right, I want to start with something small. I want you to know that at least once a month when I'm driving, I do this thing that I call autopiloting. And my kids have even learned this about me. If I am driving to somewhere that's outside of my routine, so let's just say maybe it's a new restaurant we're going to go try. If I am driving in the car and I've got GPS on because I got to know where I'm going. I got that on. But if I'm in a conversation, it's happened multiple times. If I'm talking, I will mess up the driving. I will drive past the exit that I should have taken. I will take exits that I shouldn't have taken, and I will just begin autopiloting to some place familiar. So my kids have learned now, like my daughter, she's very kind of black and white. You know, she's on it. She's learned. She'll stop the conversation when she sees an exit coming, because she's seen this enough. It even has been so bad at times. There was a period in my life where I was driving to Augusta, Georgia regularly. That's the last place I lived before coming back to Charlotte. And so I did that drive enough. And that's, to get to Augusta, Georgia, if you didn't know this, you take I-77 south down into Columbia, then you take I-20. I remember I was going to something in Atlanta. I don't even remember where I was going, but I know I was going to Atlanta. And if you've ever driven to Atlanta, you know that that's I-85 south, okay? Two different interstates. And if you look at a map, one goes straight down, the other one has got a lot of west and south in it. And I was 10 miles down I-77 south before I realized that I was not on 85 south. Again, not because I don't know the difference or I don't know like the general. I autopiloted. And that's the thing. It's not that I'm like totally distracted in the sense of like I'm staring at my phone or something like that. It's just my mind can float elsewhere, and so quickly my body will just go through the motions, and we'll just do the things. And then, maybe you've done the thing where you're like 3 turns into a drive, and you kind of snap out of whatever haze you were in, and you're like, I don't remember making the last couple of turns. We just autopilot. We just cruise through the thing, and then sort of wake up and realize, oh, how did I make it this far? And so as I thought about that, I started thinking about how much of my life actually happens like that. Like how much of my life is sort of this autopilot thing. Like how many of the conversations that I have are just sort of the same thing. Like how much time have I spent in church and in other spaces, in meetings. If you work in an office and you've done work, how many of those things you get to the end and you're like, I was in a meeting for 45 minutes, but I don't really know what was said. Like, how much do we walk through where we're just kind of there physically? The body is going through the motions. We might even be saying things, but we're not really present. And as I think about that, I can do that just as easily here. I can show up and I can sing songs without thinking about it because I've heard them a number of times, and I can just kind of go through the motions, and that's really not what I want, and I don't think it's what any of us want when it comes to our relationship with God. We don't want to do this autopilot thing, but sometimes we do, and here's what I think is really true when it comes to God and relationship with Him. We don't just wake up on a day and make a decision, that's it, I'm done, I'm walking away from God. It doesn't happen that way. It happens slower. We get busy, life fills up, things fill in the gaps, our calendars get crowded, and then faith just kind of becomes this background noise. It slips into the background, it slips away. It's still there, we're still a part of it, it's just not really doing anything. And what I want you to hear today is that's kind of what I think is perhaps the most dangerous place to be. It's close enough to God to go through all the motions, but you still feel nothing. It's close enough to be in proximity to do the things, but you don't feel anything. We start this new series today. It's called Seen. You're not as invisible as you feel. And it is this study through the book of Zephaniah. So let me tell you a little bit about Zephaniah, and we'll get into the beginning of it today, you probably haven't. I'm just going to go out on a limb and assume that most of you have not heard a series preached through the book of Zephaniah. Okay, we don't do this kind of thing all that often, but it's an interesting book. It's 3 chapters. Clay mentioned it in the reading plan. I had to check my reading plan and see. I'm doing a chronological read through the Bible in a year plan. If you're curious, no, I am not on time. I mentioned this earlier in the year, but I'm doing way better than my first time. My first time I did a Bible in a year plan, it took 10 years, okay? I finished that in December of last year. Okay, so January, I started this year. I'm in like the 120s on the days, okay? So I am on a way better pace. I think we're going to get it done in about 2.5 years. We'll see. But I checked out of curiosity. Zephaniah is one day in the chronological Bible plan, and it is like day 220-something. So you really got to stick in there to even get to this book. It is easy to miss as you move around and look at other stuff in there. And so just a little bit of background. Zephaniah is prophesying during the reign of King Josiah. And you might have heard of King Josiah. He shows up in various places in the Old Testament. You can find him in 2 Kings, you can find him in 2 Chronicles, kind of from more of the historical context, and you can find him in a few of the prophets. Jeremiah opens, a lot of people have read through Jeremiah. Jeremiah opens talking about Jeremiah prophesying during the reign of King Josiah. Josiah is most known for kind of a funny story to me. Maybe this is just how my brain works. But it basically goes, Josiah is like doing some spring cleaning. And as he's doing some spring cleaning, he finds a scroll and it's like the law. And he's like, oh snap, like we got rules and stuff we should be following. And Josiah goes on this whole like reform thing, and he really does shift the arc of the people of God, and help restore them back to a faithful practice. And so it's a cool thing that happens, but Zephaniah is earlier in that timeline. Zephaniah is before Josiah has found the scroll, before the people have really turned back. So this is a nation where Zephaniah comes in. It's a nation that is still, it's looking religious on the outside. They've got the priests, they've got the temple, they're doing sacrifices, they've got all these things that are kind of running the way that you would expect, but they're underneath, not really in it. According to God, they had effectively gone numb. And that's the title of today's message, is numb. And it took a prophet coming and saying, hey, you've stopped paying attention. You've lost what we were after here. And so over the next 5 weeks, we're going to walk through this entire 3-chapter book. It definitely has an arc to it, and I'm warning you as we get ready to jump into Zephaniah 1, it starts about as dark as a prophetic book can get. Yay me, I get the dark one. But I promise, stick with us for all 5 weeks, it gets better. Most people have heard Zephaniah 3:17 where it talks about God singing over us. If you've ever heard that verse, he sings over us, that whole thing. We'll get there. That happens in week 5. We got 4 weeks to go. That's not what we're doing today. God is not singing today. Today, God is kind of yelling. I was talking with Christian backstage, and it's like, today is the death metal. We're going to get to the Chris Tomlin in week 3, okay? Or week 5 in chapter 3. So let's jump in. Verse 1 tells us who Zephaniah is and kind of when he's writing. It gives you sort of the historical context. And then God comes out swinging in verse 2. I will sweep away everything from the face of the earth, says the Lord. Like I said, the book starts strong. Remember, it's going to get better. Just trust. But here's the thing that I want you to realize. When we read stuff like this in the Old Testament, I think our assumption is that it's aimed at like pagan nations. It's aimed at the enemies, the people who didn't have a relationship with God at all. And that's true a lot of the time, but keep reading. Verse 4, he says, I will crush Judah and Jerusalem. Like, there is no vagueness here. With my fist and destroy every last trace of their Baal worship. I'll put an end to all the idolatrous priests so that even the memory of them will disappear. So we see, God names his own people. He names his nation, his people. He calls out Judah and Jerusalem by name, where the temple is, where the priesthood is, where all of these things are happening. The people who on paper are the closest to God are the people that he is calling out. And he gets even more specific in verse 5 as to why he's doing so. For they go up to their roofs and bow down to the sun, moon, and stars. They claim to follow the Lord, but then they worship Molech two. And I really want you to see this word, because I think this is the dangerous one. It's two. It's also. It's in addition to. It's not that these people worship Molech instead of the Lord. It's not that they had made a decision to go a different direction. They are the same people with the same mouth holding both. They're hedging their bets, so to speak. Like, we're gonna worship God, but you know what? Doesn't hurt to throw in a little Molech just in case. We'll see which one pans out. That's the dangerous space that they're in. They've not made a decision to abandon God and move over to a different form of worship. No, they're holding both. It's a little bit of God, a little bit of whatever. That whatever we've decided will keep us safe in the moment. And I think that's the dangerous place that we can often find ourselves in, right? I haven't met anybody lately who has a statue of Molech. I haven't heard anybody lately talk to me and talk about their worship of Molech, but we have a lot of other things that we put our trust in. It could be the number in the savings account. It could be how much overtime you can get just if things get tight, you can pick this up and you can handle it. It could be just simply that self-reliance, your own ability to handle it. Like, if this God thing doesn't work out, well, I've still got things that I can do. I can rely on me. I can figure it out. It could just be staying busy enough that you don't need to feel how out of control things are. Or it could be the 5-year plan, or the backup plan, or the backup plan to the backup plan. We often will find a way to hedge our bets. We trust God, but let's be practical. Let's be realistic. We never say that our hope and our trust is in these things. Like, I haven't seen a t-shirt where it's like, in God we trust, and we just cross out God and go, bank account. That'd be an interesting t-shirt. I don't know how many of those would sell. We wouldn't say that that's where our hope and trust is, but often that's what our life looks like, and we can see it. So this is where we can find ourselves in this story. Because again, this story and the people in Zephaniah, it's not a story of people who rejected God outright. It's people who never fully trusted. And I think we can identify with that. Verses 7 through 11 kind of continue to build this picture. In verse 8, he says this: I will punish the leaders and princes of Judah and all those following pagan customs. Now, that can sound just like a general warning against like foreign influence and that sort of thing. But notice that God is honing in on the leaders and the princes of Judah, he says, the people who are closest to the power, closest to the temple, closest to God, at least on paper. And he says he'll punish them along with everybody else following these pagan customs. Think about that. These are not people who left. These are not people who walked away from the faith. These are people who stayed close enough to still be called leaders and princes of Judah while living a completely different life underneath. Think about that. That's what convicts me here. God's not primarily in this passage concerned with the people who walked away. Yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll figure that out in a minute. He's going after the people who stayed close enough to keep their titles, right? I mean, if you think about that, you got to be pretty close. You got to be a pretty good actor. You got to be able to put on a pretty good front. You got to be able to ignore distractions. In order to stay in that position of power, to keep that title, it can't be overt and outright. Yep, that's good. Thanks. It takes a specific kind of nearness to pull this off. You cannot fake belonging from far away, right? You got to know the songs. You got to know the language. You got to know what's happening. You got to know what to say and when to bow, but be running on a different set of values underneath. So that's the thought I kept coming back to this week. The version of me that God seems most concerned with isn't the one that's far from him. It's not the one that wants to walk away. It's not the one that asks questions. It's not the one that doubts. No. It's the one that's close enough to look completely fine. It's the one that's showing up, doing all the right things, saying all the right things, presenting well, but hedging. But underneath, there's other things. And that takes us to verse 12, which I think kind of hinges our passage here. In verse 12, he says, I will search with lanterns in Jerusalem's darkest corners to punish those who sit complacent in their sins. They think the Lord will do nothing to them, either good or bad. Complacent. He's looking for the complacent. Sitting still in your own sin long enough that it stops registering as anything at all. You stop noticing that it's bad. And it's this subtle belief that God calls out that's happening inside of them. It's this subtle belief that God's not going to do anything. He's not paying attention, or he's unwilling to engage. He's not, he's not going to punish me, but he's not going to bless me. He's just apathetic. That's not atheism. Nobody in here is saying there is no God. What they're saying is that it doesn't really matter either way. God's probably not going to show up and do anything, so why pay attention? And I think that right there is the most honest description of spiritual numbness that we can get. It isn't disbelief, it's indifference. It's settled in enough to almost feel like peace. It's stillness that stops looking like a problem because nothing seems to be happening either way. So my question is, when is the last time you expected God to do something? Not the safe, vague kind of expecting, but actually anticipated that he might show up, that he might move, that he might say something to you this week. And I think a lot of us have landed in a similar place as these people in verse 12 here. We haven't rejected God, we just stopped expecting anything from him. We didn't push him away, we didn't say no, we just stopped expecting. But look at that first line of verse 12. He says, I will search with lanterns in Jerusalem's darkest corners. Think about that for a second. Allow that picture to run in your mind of God searching with a lantern, highlighting the dark corners, highlighting the nooks and crannies, searching. He's not handing down a sentence from a distance. He's searching, going corner to corner, house to house, with a light, looking. The very fact that God says this out loud, instead of letting it slide, it means he's not giving up on numb people. He's looking for them. He's searching for them. Think about what the opposite would feel like that God just lets it go, doesn't say anything. Just lets Jerusalem sit flat, complacent, going through the motions. That's actually the scarier version. That's the scarier verse. That's what it looks like when someone's given up on you, right? When they stop bothering to say anything because they've already decided you're not worth the conversation. That's not what happens here. God doesn't ignore it. He doesn't just let it slide with a warning. He goes looking room by room, looking for the people who've told themselves that he's not paying attention. So here's the thing. This is what we get. Again, the most dangerous place to be, it's not far from God. The dangerous place is close enough to go through the motions and feel nothing. But the fact that God calls it out instead of ignoring it, that he names complacency instead of letting it go unmentioned, it's the first sign that he's moving toward them, not away. God is searching and moving toward his people, even though at the moment it comes in the form of punishment. If you think about it, a lot of us in the room are parents. We're all children, so we've been parented in some way. What we know is discipline comes from a place of love. We want good things for our kids, and so if we love our kids, we steer them. we point them in a direction. That's where we're starting today. God is, but what I want you to get in it is that God is moving. He's moving towards his people, not leaving them be. And he's moving towards them very intentionally, very systematically, hunting, searching in every corner. So what do we do with this? I think first thing we can do is we got to identify the hedge. And no, I'm not talking about your bushes. Those are easy to, you can find those pretty quick. It's think about, pray through, consider the places in your life where you're tempted to, yes, worship God, but also, God, I love you and I believe that you can take care of my finances, but I got to make sure that the bank account, that everything's in the right place just in case you don't do anything. And then we often don't even say that part. We go, just in case. We don't fill in the just in case, right? We just stop it just in case. But the ... to the just in case is just in case you don't do anything. Just in case you don't come through. Just in case you don't act. We need to spend some time identifying where is that for you? Where is the hedge? What is the situation where you bring it to God, but you also have a plan B? So we need to find that. The second thing is this. Identify the hedge, then pay attention. This week, as you go through your life, pay attention to the moments when that split shows up. Notice it, okay? And I'm not telling you to try to get rid of it or even really to do anything with it. I'm encouraging you to try to intentionally be aware. Notice when it happens. Notice the moment that maybe prayer enters your mind and maybe you fire off a quick prayer and then you immediately move to your plan. Just notice those spaces. Become more aware of the places that we will tend to hedge. Noticing, as small as it sounds, it's God in the corner with the lantern looking. Noticing is this big piece. And then when you notice it, here's the one thing I'll ask you to do. Not fix it. We don't have to do anything crazy. It's simply bring that space to God. When you have that moment of awareness and you go, wow, God, I did pray. You heard it. But man, look how quick I jumped to this other thing. Look how fast I moved through the prayer and into the plan. God, help me here. It can be that simple. Maybe it's just holding both things and going, God, I just got to admit, I've been trusting this thing more than I've been trusting you. It's not what I want to do. It's not how I want to live. That sort of awareness and that level of getting into specific prayers. We can fall into a habit of some very vague prayers. Lord, bless my life. Lord, help me. And sometimes that's all you got, and that's great, and the Lord loves hearing it. But the more we can move into a space of, God, I trust that you can take care of my kids. But I realize that I've been trusting in my own ability to raise them well. I rely on that more. I pray and I say, hey, bless my kids, but then I'm over here going, what do I need to do? And I so quickly move to my own abilities. And God, if I'm honest, you're better at this than I am. I can look at my own parenting and I can look at my own raising and I can see that there are some issues. There's a reason I pay a counselor. So, and a reason I pay a counselor for them. So, God, I don't want to rely on me. Help me. It's those spaces where we get specific with God and we talk to him about the realities of our life. It's there that God meets us. It's there that he can find us. This week is not about reorganizing your prayer life. It's simply about, think about where you tend to hedge. Notice it. Pay attention to it this week and just bring it to God. Just put it in front of him. It's just one thing to bring to him honestly. Because here's what I know. God is not searching for people who already have it together. He's searching specifically for the people who don't. So I just want you to have that image in your mind as we close. God searching Jerusalem's darkest corners with a lantern, looking corner to corner for the exact people who'd convinced themselves that he wasn't paying attention, who'd convinced themselves that he's not looking, he's not acting. But he was never going to leave them in a corner he couldn't find. If you've been sitting in something this week, not far from God, just numb, the invitation's not to feel guilty about it. It's just to remember the moment that God calls it out. When God points to it, when God says, hey, I see you, it's the moment that he's looking for you, that he's pursuing you. We don't get to chapter 3 and the dancing and the singing without starting here in the dark with a lantern moving from corner to corner. He's looking. And that's the best news you'll hear this week. Let's pray. Father, thank you that you don't give up on us. God, thank you that you are faithful. God, that you search, that you look, that you move, that you act. God, shake us out of our numbness. God, so often we want to do the right things. We get in these spaces and then we just fall into a rut and a rhythm that quickly becomes autopiloting, that quickly becomes numbness. God, this week, make us aware. Open our eyes that we might see the places where we've exchanged full trust in you for trust and for I believe but, for plan A and plan B and maybe plan C. God, help us to trust in you, our Father, who knows us, who sees us, who misses nothing and pursues us even into the dark corners of our lives. Lord, we love you. It's in your name we pray. Amen.